Time to get back at working on the Tacoma solid axle swap. Haven't worked on it in a month and a half. I don't even remember. Been very busy working on some other stuff. Tons of parts. Tons of rock auto magnets. Done a lot of car work, a lot of stuff on the 4Runner. So been very busy. Haven't had any time. But I think today I'm going to try to do some short and sweet work on it, and finally get around to actually test fitting the custom shackles that they sent me. These are supposed to have 1 5/16 offset. I asked for them to narrow it up just a little bit at the top to fit inside the bucket better. We had some tight ones in the other sets. Oops, knocking stuff over. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and start there today. Take a little bit of pressure off the front end with a jack, kind of pick the whole front end of the truck up just a little bit. It's kind of got noticed it might have a little bit of sag. I mean, I did cut a chunk of the frame out and then left it for 2 months. So I think I'll start with trying to get those aligned in there and maybe tacked in, or at least get the placement right, and see how I feel about it, and go from there to check my measurements, make sure everything's fine. Try to make some progress on this thing today. Alright, I think I got them where I need them to be. Tape. Got them in there. I got about a 1/4 inch of, from the, that's hard to describe, from this point right here, that little sharp corner in the front to the bottom of the frame, we got about a 1/4 inch of hanging down. Backside, right there, I've got about a 1/4 inch, almost 5/16 on this side. That side is 1/4 in the front and a 1/4 in the back, so hanging a little lower here in the back corner. I don't think it's enough to matter. If you pull from the outside of one like that, you'd have to look at the outside of the other here. Where are we at? And it's not quite 31.5, but I mean, we're talking within a 1/16 or an 1/8. I'm pretty sure those brackets have a little bit of kind of bend in them, as in like distortion. They're not dead parallel both sides. If I come to the passenger side here and pull the same measurement, outside right there to outside here, see if I can get it lined up pretty square. See what I'm saying? It's like 31 9/16, 31 5/8. Both brackets damn near flush, and measuring from inside to this straight edge that's parallel to the frame. This side's like 2 15/16, so this side's like 2 7/8. So they're not dead on each other. I think they're close. I think they're close enough for what I'm doing. My 2x4s back here seem to be 1.5 inches like they're supposed to be. I think that's as close as it's going to get. I kind of want to get, while they're in their spot, I want to run a tack in like all the 4 corners, like a couple in the back, a couple up here, maybe tack up here in the corner, kind of keep it from moving, and then pull my jacks out and triple check all my measurements. Got my welder out here. Fire it up and get it ready to go. And then I'll try to lay the tacks down. I don't know how well you'll be able to see it, nor do I know what angle to put you guys at. I'll just go with that for now. Not the best tacks, but like I said, it doesn't matter. And you can probably see what I'm talking about. There's, man, if I could hold anything still. there's a little left to right movement. I mean, if you snug this bolt down, it'll probably take it out of it, but there's enough give, and I don't think being an 1/8 inch off over the, full length of the spring from front to rear, that much ain't gonna throw off your spring center. Alright, hooking to the inside of the outer would be inside of the outer, and you're about 31.5, so I feel good about that. I could probably check it at full, I don't know, what do you want to call that? Full expansion, full droop, and then that'd be full compression of the spring. I mean, it looks good, got a lot of movement. Not close to hitting anything. Not close to that cross member, which is nice. Hanging down, I'm thinking those eyelets should be pretty dang close together. And they look, I don't know, look pretty close, I guess. I don't know what the hell I'm judging off of. Yeah, I'm going to take some more measurements. If all's good, we'll call that tacked in. I might lay a couple more heavy tacks off camera, but that looks pretty good there. I'm thinking one of the other things I'm going to do is talk about the front cross member. Last video you saw me clean up this cross member. I need to drill some holes in it still, so I might just go ahead and do that. Got those buckets tacked in there now, as I showed. Let me see if I can explain kind of what's going on. I'm still waiting on a set of leaf springs, basically. These were the original ones off that F250 I talked about in the past I was going to use. The more research I've done, the more I've kind of determined that they're not going to be what I need to use, excuse me. They feel like a compromise, and I don't want to compromise on a project that I'm passionate about. I don't want to get done and think that this truck, I wish I'd have done that, wish I'd have done this. That hanger, that shackle, it's hanging almost straight down. It's a little bit forward. And that eyelet isn't even back far enough. It's not even close to this eyelet, and I still got to drill that hole about 2 inches up. And there's no weight on it, which is fine. My understanding and my having done solid axle in the past, when there's no weight on this spring, it's not uncommon to have that one dead vertical with both ends bolted in. Well, that one ain't even far enough back as it is, and that one needs to go farther forward and needs to be drilled up another 2 inches. Plus, my other problem is spring pin center. I want it to be a little bit farther forward than this one, and I think it is, looking at it now, probably by 1.5 inches, 2 inches, somewhere in there. Not much, but it's enough that it'd probably be okay. But I know that that's going to swing back under ride height, which is going to pull that back, that spring center back some. And this thing is still not even close enough to touch this. So I'm waiting on some different set of leaf springs that have the pin like 2 inches farther forward, and the spring itself is like 2.5 inches longer, which I think is going to, one, longer is going to give me better ride quality. Two, pushes the tire far enough forward that I'm not getting into my fender on compression. So everything's just going to fit better. And now with this front cross member that I put in here, I ground on before, it's just sitting up here. I've got it equal on both sides from like the front of the bucket basically to the eye here, just for mock-up. And it's already pushing up here. This guy is pushing into the radiator. I don't have the radiator bolted in. It's just kind of hanging in there with, I think, top bolts are in it, maybe? I don't even remember. Regardless, it is bumping into the radiator. See, I can push the radiator. Kind of see it moving down there. It like hits. So the more I push this back, the more it's pushing into the radiator. There's the radiator mounting hole. You can see the gap it's already got in it. It's not... See it moving away? I mean, it's already got a damn 1/2 inch gap. So I'd have to build a 1/2 inch spacer there anyways just to push it back. So you ain't going to have two parts rubbing against each other. So I'm trying not to push this thing too far back. I want decent approach angle, and to have that, you got to push the tire farther forward. No questions asked. If that spring pin moves forward, better approach angle, better ride quality, better fitment. So I don't think I want to push that too far back. But it's going to be the moving part. Once I have the leaf springs, I'll hang them in here, get them bolted in,
get it equal, set it on the ground with some weight, and see where it lands. That'll kind of tell me where ride height is. In the meantime, though, I think I'm going to work on getting this front cross member in. This is a set 2x3. I don't know what gauge this is. 11 gauge, I think. It's a little over an 1/8 inch wall. 1/8 inch wall, roughly about that. I'm going to take these bolts out. They're originally holding that old bumper bracket I made. I think I'd clean up around here. Got some big gaps in here. I'm not sure if I should cut this cap off or not. I'm kind of thinking not. Obviously I'm winging this. Hadn't figured that out for this boogered up set of videos. I'm winging it. Basically get these bolts out of here, clean up around there, cut this to length. I'm thinking go from this face of this motor, this cab mount bracket, to this face of it, and weld it in there. Basically just set it across and weld it. So that would give me a front cross member. Once I have a front cross member welded in, frame won't split, and I can cut this cross member here out, this original one, which is bulky and heavy. So I'd like to pretend I'm losing a little bit of weight doing this, but you know, whatever. Probably not. Oh, and also, worth mentioning, kind of forgot until now. You can't really see it right now. I guess that's half proves the point. The radiator is like dead flush with the bottom of this bracket. But you got things like hose mounts and some of this other stuff that's still connected. I actually have a different radiator going into this truck. It's like 2 inches shorter in the core. It's that box right up there. And so I'm going to swap that radiator out. Everything about it's the same. I'll still have to make a bushing or whatever to space it out in the back here, but it'll bring it up about 2 inches in the bottom. So that'll help kind of protect some of the bottom end from being too close to rocks and stuff. And everything I've read is the automatic trans on a slightly smaller core radiator does just fine. I didn't step down to the smallest, which I think came in like the 2.7 base models, 4 cylinders. I went with like kind of the medium one. I think they still came in automatic inline 4s, but they're enough to cool the V6. Plus I have a huge trans cooler in this thing. It's kind of hard to see. It's big. It came out of a half-ton truck, so I've never had a lick of problem cooling this trans. But I think I'm gonna go ahead and cut this 2x3, clean up some stuff, and probably tack it into the front of the frame. Got the ends of the frame rail cleaned up a little bit. Cleaned up some metal. Good enough, I think I could weld it. Got the front cross member cut to length. Cleaned all the dang rust off. Pretty smooth now. Not perfectly clean, but pretty good. Got it marked for which side I want front and orientation up. Got the old cross member off. Still got to mark the 2-inch hole, 2-inch up for this and drill it. I'll get to that in a minute. Midday and getting hot out here. The sun's right on my back. Got this cross member in here. Clamp that lower one in there to kind of hold it up flat and level. Got it centered on the truck. Sits a little bit lower than the top of the frame on both sides, basically where they roll that frame rail around and weld it. I think that's fine. There's kind of some gapping in there. That's kind of back where I was concerned about the whether or not I should leave that plate in there. I mean, I like the side here. That weld would be plenty strong. It's got some backing material in there, and I can fill that in nice and heavy. Yeah, I don't know. I think that's probably fine. I might put some filler in there. Definitely got some good weld right at the top here. And as I said, the side will be really nice, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I think I'm going to leave it. I'm pretty happy with it. But it's centered. It's right where I want it, so just got to roll the welder over here, tack it in place, pull off the lower mount, and then weld it full. Got my tacks in. I'm going to go ahead and weld up this seam vertical on both sides, and probably across the top just a little bit right there. Got a half decent weld burned into it, just on the side and top. Yeah. It's strong, but it's ugly. I don't think it's going to matter. I think I'm going to grind this pretty much flush, end up plating over this. You know, running a weld around the edges, kind of give us like a cleaner, flush appearance. I still gotta figure out what to do with that hole, but for now, it's on there. It's strong. It's not gonna separate. I still want to get a. This side actually looks okay. One little bubble hole there, not bad. Still need to weld the bottom up, but kind of the same thing. It's I only got like a short span I can do on each side. Not bad. And of course I got the inside corner to weld that joint down in there, but for now it's good. It's actually gonna hold the front end together, so it looks nice. It'll hold the front end together, which means I could technically cut this crossmember out now. So I kind of want to get on top of that. I have no reason to have this kind of sitting here. New holes are drilled. Mostly need to deburr, especially like that one's pretty rough. That looks pretty good. Next thing I'll do is chop this off somewhere along here. Basically recreate this nice contour down here somewhere. You might notice it has a little bit of kind of like forward flare here. That'll get cut off. Probably cut straight across here. Around this nice with the grinder. Around this nice with the grinder. You won't know that was ever there. Here are the 4 tabs cut off the bottom. They're all pretty dang close in size. I feel good about getting them close to equal. 2 of them kind of have a dip in the back, which does show itself on the part. But anyhow, it don't really matter. Got them cut off. Threw a little chamfer on there. Basically, kind of used a washer to give myself a decent radius. Still kind of having a deburring issue. I thought I was going to be able to get the grinder in there. It don't really kind of tried here. It didn't really work that well, so might have to see what I can do to deburr the insides, particularly that one right there. But anyhow, much shorter. I find that the bolt that goes through here seems to be almost dead center in line with that front face. But that's fine. I mean, that's cool. I kind of like that it pushes up in here. It's a lot. I think it'll be more resilient, less likely to bending left or right, seeing how close it is to, you know, other plate. So I think that is all I'm going to get done today. I think that's what I'll leave with. Is front crossmember is more than tacked, not fully welded in, but it ain't coming out. And I got those back boxes tacked and confirmed that the leaf spring width, perch width will be correct on them. So, got to be a rainy day. Didn't get as much done as I want. But I think tomorrow, for sure tomorrow will be calling the company that has the leaf springs and seeing if what the shipment order is. Seeing how long before I can get them. But so I think that's where I'll stop for now. If I, you know, get some good news, hopefully get the springs soon, I'll be working on that pretty hard, trying to get the truck settled at ride height. But for now, I think this is all I'm going to do. I think I said this before, I might get into doing the front axle build, but man, I really don't want to get into the axle until I have the truck at ride height. Because I know I'm going to have to weld sway bar mounts, perch mounts, shock mounts, a bunch of stuff like that onto the axle. And I don't want to have to do that with seals and anything like that in the axle. If I build the axle, I really don't want to put it together, then disassemble for welding, and then put it all back together. I'm mostly worried about burning up the inner axle seal on these things, but it's up in the air. We'll see where I end up. Either way, that's where I'm going to stop for the day.